Dala! So, I wanted to talk to you about one of the questions I get over and over since I did my videos on African animal totems, and I will link it somewhere or in the description bar. Is that, let me tell you the truth about African totems, because everyone seems to be like, oh, I have this totem, I have this totem. I'm like, listen, or how can I find my totem, or say, okay, there are a few steps that can get you on a path to learning to start rediscovering whether you have a totem. This has nothing to do whether you're part of the diaspora or whether you are in Africa or whatever. This is basically for anybody that you didn't have one of your elder pass on to you the totem, show you and initiate you and tell you all the different things about it, or even make you aware that you do have it. If that didn't happen for you and you just basically, you think you have one, you're not sure, whatever, and you want to try to reconnect with that side, then you're going to watch the video on the African totem and the different things that you can see around. However, now this being said, you can watch that, pause this, go watch it, come back if you haven't done so already. But notice this, and this is my perspective, so this is not like something that's applicable to everyone. This is from my Bamileke perspective, my own particular Bamileke. So the Bamileke kingdom is huge, it's vast, and I do have to mention this every single time I talk about that because people get it confused. This is not like one street. It's not like, oh, it's like if you go in the Bamileke kingdom, different villages, different customs, different villages, different languages, different villages, different traditions. Okay, we are a big family, but we have many diverse. It's very, very diverse. Different family within the same village, different traditions. Okay, elders have different ways of doing things. You go from one part of town to another part of town, it's not going to be the same thing. Each person that has their own animal totem does not do the exact same thing. Okay. So now that this is being said, and now that you understand that what your family does is not going to be like my family do it, okay? And so you don't need to send me an email explaining me this and that, because what I'm sharing is my own perspective, and I think I didn't even share it in that much detail anyways for you to start saying this and that and that. But it's just to remind you that, you know, your grandfather may have a way to do things, which is not my grandfather. I can only speak of what the stuff I've been passed on to and the stuff that I've witnessed, the stuff that works for me, and the stuff that I've experienced. Okay, if I'm reading something out of a book, I will show you what book it is. I will tell you, or I will tell you that it was from a book. You know, I don't need to mix and match different things. And I also make a clear distinction about what I read in a book from someone else's perspective or experience, and what is my own experience, what is from my own tradition. Okay, I always separate the two. Sometimes there are some overlaps, and this is why sometimes I make videos, and when there are overlaps, I mention the overlaps and what have you that I am aware of. Okay, so when I'm saying this is the truth about animal totems, it's really the truth from my own perspective. Okay, you may be at a different angle of the truth. You know, the truth is just is, but when we are different perspective and different angles, we can see it differently. Okay, so what I'll say is that when you do have an animal totem, the characteristic of that animal are going to be reflected on you. It's going to be reflected on in your diet. It's going to be reflected in some of the ways that you may be thinking. In certain situations, you may even trigger some of those characteristics out. But it's nothing like that cute. It's nothing that's always like easy and smooth and all that stuff. Like, that's something different. That's something completely different. Like, for example, somebody who has like a lion as a totem, as an animal totem that has a connection with the lion, is not going to be a vegetarian. I'm sorry, it's not. So this is what I said. It's gonna reflect in your personality, in your lifestyle, in your way of life. Somebody who truly has an African totem as a lion is also going to be taking on responsibilities, because that's what the lion does. And sometimes it's really incongruent, because people will think, okay, oh yeah, the lion is just eating animals around, which is not that. The purpose of the lion is not to be just eating other animals around. Every single animal, including man and all living entity, has a place in biodiversity. That's just the way it is. In order for the fruit to come, some seed has to be planted, the tree has to come up, the fruit has to come down, some bird will eat it, transport it some other places to have another tree there. There's a cycle everywhere, and death and rebirth is also everywhere. So each animal has its place, and naturally animals know where their place is. Okay, so unless you have, like I said, capture animal, like animal in a zoo, like animal that have been whose behavior has been modified by human beings to become pets and become docile or domesticated, do not necessarily have all of those natural attributes that animals are in the jungle or in the wild do have without interference or interaction with man. Okay, so the lion, one of the responsibilities is that the lion is going to take responsibilities in terms of protecting his territory. So the lion doesn't go to Sweden to hunt. He has a definite territory. He's not going to go out there unless he's pushed to go outside of his own territory. And what is associated with that is that it covers a territory. Yes, he's going to be the only one or the predominant one to feed on that territory and certain things. But that also means that he's going to protect whatever other prey or whatever animals is on that territory because it is his. That means if a strange lion comes into his territory, or a strange wolf or a strange other predatory creature come onto his territory, he's going to step in and protect his food, protect his kingdom, protect his territory. And which people don't really think about. They say, you may happen to see a lion fighting a tiger, some other animals that's coming on to feed on his territory. And he may die from that fight, okay? So this is why you really have to reshift your thing instead of thinking, sometimes too many people are thinking linear in terms of vegan, vegetarian, and blah, blah, blah. Maybe based from the more of the Western or US perspective. But that's not what it is about. It's going to be very hard for you to tap into a lion totem if you are vegetarian, because the way of thinking, the DNA content is not going to be the same either. Okay? And also, even though it may sound like, oh, this is great, you're the king of the jungle and this stuff, there's a lot of aspects also that are negative that you have to learn how to deal with. The aggressiveness of the animal sometimes, the mood swings, the maybe sometimes some people want to step away, don't want to take those responsibilities. So there are different things that are there that are positive, that could be seen as positive or advantages, but also the things that could be seen as negative, as hard to deal with. I think that you have to kind of know how to navigate in order to embody that, in order to keep and to remain within the agreement of the totem. So it goes well beyond having, the head of a lion or a lion as a blason or as a logo on your stuff. That's has nothing to do with it, I'll say. If you like the lion and you have lions all around you in terms of the best pet that you get and how you decoring your house, that has nothing to do with you having a totem. Because as I mentioned, the totem, what it really is a symbiotic relationship with that. It's like part of you is a living animal. Part of you share that with the animal and the animal share it with you. You have that deeper, really deep connection that has nothing to do with the human conformity of things. So there are different things that you can notice that I've mentioned in other videos. There are people who cannot leave a specific place because of that. And they are entrusted to secure that space and to protect some of the other individuals and some of the other animals who are on that territory, even to the extent of their own life. And I think that's the part that's oftentimes missing. People just think, oh, I just get this totem and whatever, and then I'm just like getting all the benefits without having to do anything. That's not how it works. And sometimes, even before the totem is even activated, you may be required to demonstrate that you're willing to lose your life for this. That this is actually to that point. And I think until you get to that point where it's being asked of you to be willing to die for this, to transition in order to maintain that symbiotic relationship and in order to fully understand that, it's going to be hard for you to grasp. So maybe you want to stick with the animal spirits that everybody mentions in terms of, your family has this nice, peacock or this nice bird or whatever, and this is a thing you put on everything and looks nice, and that's a different concept. It has nothing to do with at least to me, that has nothing to do with the perception of a true animal totem, because that animal, you're gonna start dreaming about it, And it's gonna be for specific things. It's not gonna be like, oh, you know, I dream of a little bunny, a cute bunny, and you know, Alice in Wonderland, whatever. No, it's going to be something that's going to be really with missions and tasks, and you may have to do that in the dream realm, you know, where you're actually going and being with the tribe and doing different things, and you know, it becomes a whole universe on its own. That's why I don't even want to talk about it too much, because it's like the simple fact that you're asking, that means you are on a different level. And sometimes maybe the perception that you're coming from a perception that is not compatible with that. That means if you're coming from, like, let's say, a Western perception, you may never understand what it means, because you're coming there and you are coming with all of your judging mindset in terms of, like, if you want to be a vegan, you're not going to have a lion that's an animal totem as an animal totem. It just doesn't even make sense. I was having this conversation, interestingly, because sometimes it comes up when people want that association with this particular animal because of, like, the attributes that the animal has, or the prestige of the animal sometimes, because it sounds good to have a lion as a totem, but then you don't understand. If you're on the vegan path, that lion is not going to be there. Okay, and one of the ways you can actually see that, and you know, I mean, sometimes to me it's just so evident and so clear that I can come across as being frustrated, even though I'm not, because I'm on my path. I understand people go on different paths and people are trying to figure things out, which is fine. But I'm just saying, like, sometimes you can have a caged animal and you can feed it whatever food you feel the animal should eat, and the animal will prefer to let itself die rather than eat whatever you're giving. And that's kind of the concept that I'm giving you. The other animals, you can cage them, you can feed them whatever you think they should have, and they will not take it. You know, if they could give carrots to lions in zoos, they will do that because it probably will cost them less, okay? But they will send that, and the lion will rather be there and lose weight and kill himself, like die slowly, rather than eat food that are not appropriate for his kind, for his species. The same way, if you see a bird that's not, what you call them? Oh, that's not a vulture, and you give him meat, the bird is not going to eat the meat. Okay, it's like animals in their natural element know about who they are. That means a lion doesn't need you to know what he should be doing and what is his place in biodiversity. Unfortunately, more and more dogs are being taught what they should do, and a lot of them are disconnected. And when I'm talking about disconnected, I'm not talking about completely disconnected from the environment, because dogs are still able to sense when there's earthquakes coming and things like that, but they're disconnected in terms of behavior. A major part of the behavior has been modified to be able to accommodate human beings and to be able to respond to human beings' wants and needs, you know. A dog may not be wanting to come to you if it wasn't, like, raised like that. He may want to go towards another animal. But I digress. But the whole point of this video is just to say, if you're looking for your animal totem, if you truly have a connection with the animal totem, because not everyone has an animal totem. I don't know if I mentioned that. It's like, not everybody, we are not all here with a really deep links to the animal kingdom like that. Some of us have affinities, meaning sometimes an animal can come to you, give you information, you can assist this animal, but it ends there. You know, tomorrow you can eat whatever you want to eat, you can go wherever you want to go, you don't have a fixed attached to that species or to that particular animal, which is not the case when you really do have a symbiotic relationship and you really have what is called a totem, you know. So, to close it up, if you are looking and you think that you have something like that in your family, in your blood, or in your lineage, or that you are open and willing to kindle something like that, just know that it's going to take a lot. It's not something you're going to wake up today and, you know, open a page in the book, pick one animal, and then go for that. It may take you years, if you're lucky. Because, as I mentioned, this is something that when you truly establish it with all of the potency it should have, it may take a generation to actually get to that high potency. But you may be able to experience a lot of different things within your own lifetime, to see different things and have different experiences. But that comes with an exchange on your part as well. It's not going to be just a stock dog being given to you. You're going to have to give something back, and you really have to assess whether you're willing to do that, because that may impact the quality of your lifestyle, what your lifestyle should be, what your interaction with certain people's, other people who have different type of totems with you. That's when you get the clans and those different things. And just a side note, there are people who have multiple totems, and usually those totems are compatible. So it's very rare to have totems that are antagonistic. I've seen it, but it's usually individuals who are really high up on their skills in terms of managing, and those people usually don't even adhere to social convention and things like that. They're really much more recluse and much more, like, we'll say, spiritually advanced, if I can use that terms. But usually you don't have totems, or totems are not passed on to you that are antagonistic, especially if you are young and you are not necessarily, and I don't say young in terms of your age, but in terms of your maturity, of your soul maturity, and how you can actually interact in that and manage that. But usually you will get totems that are compatible, or totems that are not antagonistic in nature, and that will reflect in the food. And that's why if you have like a totem which of an animal who's vegetarian and an animal who's a carnivorous, then that may be reflecting on you, depending on how close you are with that, or depending how much you're using them, how much integrated your synchronicity is with them. Okay, so animal totem, I mean, it's a subject of so much exploration. I think it will take a lifetime to completely dive in all the different facets. I love this particular subject. I love this particular topic. I love this particular experiences and how it enables you to be closer to nature and just learn more about nature. But I don't really like to indulge in the theoretical superficial analysis. To me, having your bed sheet with a lion on it, or having your little notepad and stuff and the stickers, it's not even in the same conversation. But however, if you have an affinity, this is how you can know that you have an affinity with certain animals, when you gravitate towards them all the time, when people are bringing that to you, when it's over them there even without you noticing. That's already an affinity. Now, turning an affinity into a totem it's a process as well. So just be mindful of that. Sometimes, I don't know why people want to necessarily go for it to have a totem, because they don't really understand what it takes, the exchange that has to be there. Sometimes it's much easier, I'll say, to have an affinity, to have a connection where you can use, and then you can have that spontaneous exchange, and then move on to something else and come back to it if you need to or if you want to. That is much different. That is much easier than having a specific totem and being planted or rooted someplace, and having not only the beneficial aspect but the negative as well to deal with and to work with, and that's not given to everyone. But it's such I think it's such an honor and a responsibility at the same time to have that and to explore that. That's why I tend to see certain knowledge that's being trusted as very sacred, as very valued, and so that's why I will distinguish it from the different conversation about animal spirits and familiars and having affinities with different animals. I think it's two separate things, even though there may be some overlaps in there. So I hope this was helpful and it answered some of the questions I've received lately, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.